Nobody knew, not even his neighbors. To most people, he was just another janitor pushing a mop down quiet hallways long after everyone else had gone home. He wore the same faded work clothes, drove an old car that rattled when it started, and lived in a small apartment that looked no different from hundreds of others in the city. If you passed him on the street, you would never have guessed that he was quietly building a fortune. His story would eventually shock an entire community and become one of the most remarkable examples of patience, discipline, and belief in the future. For nearly 30 years, Michael worked as a janitor at a local office building. Every evening, when employees packed up their laptops and headed home, he arrived with a cart full of cleaning supplies. He emptied trash cans, vacuumed carpets, cleaned windows, and polished floors. The work was physically demanding, repetitive, and often overlooked. Few people knew his name, and even fewer stopped to talk with him. Yet while many saw his job as ordinary, Michael saw it as something different. He viewed it as a tool that could help him build the life he wanted. Michael had grown up in a family that struggled financially. His parents worked hard, but money always seemed to disappear as quickly as it arrived. As a child, he watched bills pile up on kitchen tables and listened to conversations about debts and overdue payments. Those experiences left a deep impression on him. He promised himself that one day he would break the cycle. He did not know exactly how, but he was determined to find a way. One evening, while cleaning an executive office, he noticed several business magazines stacked on a desk. During his break, he began reading them. At first, much of the financial language seemed confusing, but one idea kept appearing again and again. The magazines described how ordinary people could build wealth through long-term investing. They explained that money invested in strong companies could grow over time through the power of compound returns. The concept fascinated him. The more he read, the more convinced he became that this might be the opportunity he had been searching for. Most people would have stopped after reading a few articles. Michael did the opposite. He spent countless nights at the public library studying investing books. He learned about stocks, markets, business fundamentals, and financial history. He discovered stories of investors who succeeded not because they were geniuses, but because they remained patient for decades. The lesson was simple but powerful. Wealth was often built slowly, not suddenly. At the age of 32, Michael made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He opened a brokerage account and began investing every spare dollar he could find. He did not start with a large amount. In fact, his first investment was so small that many people would have considered it insignificant. But Michael understood something important. The size of the first investment mattered far less than the consistency of future contributions. He created a strict budget that surprised everyone who knew him. He rarely ate at restaurants. He avoided expensive vacations. He repaired things instead of replacing them. When friends upgraded their cars, he continued driving the same aging vehicle. When coworkers spent money on luxury items, he quietly transferred more money into his investments. Some people assumed he was simply frugal. Others thought he was struggling financially. The truth was that he was making a deliberate choice. Every dollar he saved became another worker earning money on his behalf. Years passed, and the market experienced its usual ups and downs. There were periods when stock prices surged and periods when they collapsed. During major downturns, many investors panicked and sold everything. News headlines predicted disaster, and fear spread rapidly. Michael felt the same anxiety everyone else felt, but he remembered the lessons he had studied. Instead of selling, he continued investing. He viewed falling prices as an opportunity to buy shares at a discount. One of the most difficult moments came during a severe market crash. Within months, a significant portion of his portfolio appeared to vanish. Friends who knew he invested urged him to get out before things became worse. Some predicted the economy would never recover, yet Michael remained calm. He continued working his shifts, cleaning hallways, and sending money into his investments. Deep down, he believed that strong businesses would survive and eventually grow again. That belief was tested repeatedly. Economic recessions, global crises, and periods of uncertainty shook markets over the years. Yet every challenge reinforced his commitment. Rather than focusing on daily fluctuations, he concentrated on the long-term trend. He understood that short-term volatility was the price investors paid for long-term growth. What made Michael's story extraordinary was not only his discipline, but also his secrecy. He rarely discussed money with anyone. He never bragged about investments or tried to impress others. Even his neighbors assumed he lived paycheck to paycheck. They saw an ordinary janitor living an ordinary life. No one knew that behind the scenes, his portfolio was steadily growing year after year. As decades passed, the effects of compound growth became impossible to ignore. Investments he had purchased years earlier multiplied in value. Dividends generated additional income, which he reinvested. Those reinvestments generated even more returns. The process repeated itself over and over again, creating momentum that seemed almost magical. Yet there was nothing magical about it. It was simply the result of patience applied consistently over a long period. By the time Michael approached retirement age, his financial situation had transformed completely. The man many people pitied had quietly accumulated substantial wealth. Still, he continued working. Not because he needed the money, but because he respected the value of honest work. He enjoyed the routine and took pride in doing his job well. Everything changed when a local journalist began researching stories about financial success in unexpected places. During an interview, Michael reluctantly shared details about his investing journey. The journalist was stunned. After verifying the information, the story was published. Within days, the community was buzzing with disbelief. Residents who had passed Michael for years suddenly discovered that the quiet janitor next door was worth millions. The reaction was immediate. Reporters requested interviews. Financial experts discussed his story. Social media users shared articles describing his remarkable discipline. Many people focused on the size of his fortune, but Michael insisted they were missing the point. According to him, the real lesson was not about becoming rich. It was about understanding what consistency could achieve over time. During one interview, he explained that people often underestimate the power of small actions repeated over many years. Most individuals look for shortcuts, quick profits, and instant results. They become discouraged when success takes longer than expected. Michael believed that true wealth often comes from doing simple things consistently while others quit. His story inspired thousands of people because it challenged common assumptions about success. Society often associates wealth with high-paying careers, prestigious titles, or extraordinary talent. Michael proved that financial success could also come from ordinary work combined with extraordinary discipline. He did not inherit money. He did not launch a billion-dollar company. He did not win a lottery. He simply earned, saved, invested, and waited. Eventually, Michael decided to use a portion of his fortune to support educational programs and financial literacy initiatives. He wanted young people to understand lessons he wished he had learned earlier in life. He funded scholarships, supported community projects, and helped create resources that taught basic investing principles. For him, success meant more than personal wealth. It meant creating opportunities for others. Looking back, the most remarkable part of Michael's journey was how little his lifestyle changed. Even after becoming wealthy, he remained humble. He continued living modestly and treating people with kindness. Those who met him after learning his story were often surprised by how ordinary he seemed. Yet perhaps that was the secret all along. Michael never chased the appearance of wealth. He focused on building real wealth quietly, patiently, and consistently. His story serves as a reminder that success often happens far from the spotlight. While the world celebrates dramatic breakthroughs and overnight sensations, countless victories are built through years of unseen effort. Every investment Michael made, every unnecessary expense he avoided, and every moment he chose patience over impulse contributed to a future that few could imagine. The janitor who secretly invested his entire savings did not become successful because he possessed special advantages. He succeeded because he understood a truth that many people overlook. Small decisions, repeated consistently over time, can produce extraordinary results. And while nobody knew his secret for decades, the lesson he left behind is now impossible to ignore. Sometimes the most powerful success stories belong to the people nobody notices, quietly building their future one decision at a time.